The FujiCast is an independent Loading Zone production.
Kev, I was at the a wedding venue before that you've worked at a few times, I'm sure. The Matara Centre in Gloucestershire, near Tetbury. Do you know the one?
Yeah, I drive past it at least twice a week. I've only ever been there once I've been there once as a guest and once to shoot a wedding in all my time. But yeah, it's like 15 minutes drive from my house. It's
a place of zen, Kev. Because they have all these gardens and formations of rocks and it's just a wonderful place. You feel very calm when you're in there. And I went to see the bride in the morning because I was doing some bridal prep shots, and she said, "I think the weather is okay today because I've buried a sausage." And I wasn't quite sure initially, Kev.
You weren't talking to the Starmer.
I wasn't sure initially.
Did you mean a hostage?
No, a sausage, Kev, not a hostage. And I wasn't quite sure initially what she meant. I thought, hang on a moment. It's apparently good luck, and I'd never heard of this before. And I think you have a few superstitions. But have you ever heard of the one that says, if you bury a sausage, roughly where your event is taking place, then it will not rain on those hallowed grounds?
No. I haven't. Although I do, it's kind of ringing a bell, and I have a feeling. I did a photo walk the other week for the Thames Festival, and I have a feeling, and it was a really hot day, Saturday afternoon, and I have a feeling one of the people on that said, "Did you bury a sausage near the river?" Something. It's a very vague remembrance. It was something to do with a weird thing, and I looked at her in complete confusion. Yeah. Let's just say no.
Yeah, well, I said, well, that obviously works then. What sort of sausage was it? And she said, it was a vegan sausage.
The FujiCast.
Of which I'm surprised it still worked, Kev. The offering to the great lords or god of whoever brings the rain, obviously likes a vegan sausage. There we go.
Vegan sausages. Yeah. Worse than silent letters.
I do.
What's the point? What's the point?
You're not somebody that goes to Greg's for a vegan sausage roll, are you?
I do not. And I was vegan for 2 years. I didn't eat vegan sausages, vegan burgers, or anything like that.
Oh, you were, weren't you? You were. I remember that. But when did that happen? Was that after just post-COVID? When did you do that?
No, it was before COVID. It was COVID what got rid of it. It was COVID that like, you know, when you could only go to the co-op once a day, Gemma was like, "Oh, I can't deal with this buying you your grass all the time, and Rosa and Albie want this, and you know, we've got 16 bottles of wine to carry up the hill as well."
Yeah, well, there we go.
That was it. Yeah.
COVID
saw it off.
Well, having said that, you were drinking pints of or slapping pints of wine over your cornflakes in the morning. That's hardly vegan friendly, isn't it? I think there's fish guts in it or something. Oh, I don't know. Yeah. And we're now going to get a stream of emails saying there's no such thing. And also I found this out, funnily enough, in the dark room on that count. If you use film, it uses animal products in the way that film is put together. It's always been the case. So if you are vegan, you may want to look at the ethics and the morals of shooting film, because it uses animal product and you can't get away from it in the film. Anyway, welcome to the FujiCast. You and your questions that you send to click@fujicast.co.uk or also to the to our Facebook account. Is it all in order this week, Kev? Does it make any sense?
Kind of. Yeah. Are you on about the questions?
Yeah, the order, because the questions usually on Facebook are all in the wrong.
Yeah, kind of. So for some bizarre reason, people have started asking questions on the old post that was there years ago, and I noticed they were coming in. And of course, when one person asks, then everybody does. So we got some from the other one.
Yeah.
We got people complaining it's not pinned when it is. We got, no, I'm done with it. I'm going. It all. I'm fed up with it. There must be an easier way. I am so sick of what Facebook have done with the comments. Doing my melons in, man.
Yeah. Who did that song? Who was that? Yeah, because you just quoted a song. Anyway, Well, we'll have a go in a moment to sort of sort through Facebook. See if we've got some questions in there. I've got a couple of emails I think that have appeared as well. Jeremy Baker sent in his usual 2 or 3. He was on last week's. He asked 2 questions last week on the Patreon pop-up. You are a star, Jeremy, of the highest order. Right, before we go any further...
Well, if he sent you emails as well, I've also got some questions that he's posted in the wrong post from years and years and years ago, but only done it 1 week ago.
Bro,
he's getting everywhere that day.
He's been busy, isn't he? He's been very, very busy. Let's first of all thank Pick Time for their support of this show. Pick-time.com is the place to go to if you want to find yourself some sort of gallery where you can present your work online in a really professional and attractive way, which is the system that myself and Kev have used. A couple of weeks ago, quote, Kev, I made Kev made 2,000 quid just standing there watching, I think, the carnival go by in your town. Ping! In came a message. Somebody had seen a wedding gallery on Pick Time, your Pick Time, and they'd bought every single digital image, hadn't they?
They did. They bought the whole lot.
The whole lot.
Lots of spondoolies for me.
2K. Yep. There was a slight jump in your step, wasn't there? If you'd like to have a gallery that can make you £2,000 while you're sitting there watching your local carnival go by, the best way to do that is to go to PickTime, pick-time.com, and if you join up, you get 1 month free of charge. You get a chance also to when it comes to galleries, there's such a clever way of doing stuff in so far as that I use it for my hero images. I like the presentation of that. Kev uses it. I don't use it for this, but Kev uses it for people designing their own albums. You haven't touched an album in years, have you? An album design, that is, in years.
No, I let the clients do all of that. It's great. Yeah. I did want to just point out something that I see in the Pick Time Facebook group. There's a lot of people raving about the way that they've implemented the vendor network, they're calling it. So you can create your own gallery for individual vendors. You can give them a logo, and it will AI select the relevant stuff, so it could be the florist, for example. And you can send the vendor their own little gallery, and it comes with instructions as well, such as, please don't edit this, but, feel free to share it on Instagram here in my links, etc., etc. And it just automates all of that process, which now I was never one for really schmoozing with the vendors that much, but I think for those that do, and you should really, because just because I didn't do it doesn't mean I should have really. And it's a really cool little system. People are loving it, absolutely loving it. So you can just kind of set up your own little vendor things, and off it goes, and they get to see their stuff, and automates the sharing of it.
So this isn't for selling pictures to the vendors, is it? This is for when they say...
No. It's for supplying the vendors with their own, how to make a vendor feel posh. I mean, imagine if you worked with Maisie Fantasi, the greatest cake maker in that there London, send them something like that. That would probably put you on their radar, wouldn't it?
It would. Is Maisie Fantasi for real?
Yeah.
Maisie Fantasi.
Yeah. Have you never worked with Maisie Fantasi?
No, I haven't. I'm going to look her up. Maisie Fantasi. Tell me about Maisie Fantasi.
Oh, amazing cakes. Not that I know anything but cakes. I'm looking it up now because I have no idea how to spell it. Fantasi.
Right. Okay.
Maisie Fantasi. The company was founded by May Aclee Cadman.
Very nice.
I don't think I actually worked with her. I think I worked with the numerous Oompa Loompas that were running around putting all the cakes together.
Kev, you can't say that.
They all had their little white gowns on, and they're all running around very busily, putting the finishing touches to this cake and this massive tower of what I thought were Ferrero Rochers, but as one of them pointed out, these are not Ferrero Rochers.
Oh, you're talking about a croque en bouche, aren't you? I think when you get the
like this big triangle of what looked like Ferrero Rochers.
It's a cone. It's with a
yeah.
They're that's a croque en bouche. It's a traditional French cake, Kev, and they usually
it's just lots of little balls of chocolate.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, gold, all stacked up on top of each other.
It can be gold. It can be pastries. It can be light pastry. It can be or choux pastry. It can be all sorts of things, Kev. Chocolate ones, caramel ones, toffee ones. It's a croque en bouche, Kev. Just in case you're ordering one for the future.
Yeah. So if you do subscribe to PickTime using FujiCast as your reference code, then you'll get 1 month free, and you may be able to get into Maisie Fantasy's secret list of suppliers.
Yes, you can't say fairer than that. Right, let's start with questions. Do you want to go first with one of JB's questions? I've got a few here actually from James Sauls. This could end up being the JS and the JB show.
Go.
All right, I'll go. James Sauls, gentlemen. I hope you're both well. Congratulations to the kids on their exam results. Yeah, well, thank you very much, James. We were both very, very pleased. Kev on his semi-retirement and Neale on the epic 1,000 weddings. You're very, very kind. Is it semi-retirement, Kev, or are the Y fronts just staying on now and you're not heading out the door at all? What's going on in your life?
No, I'm still doing stuff. I've got some family shoots coming up. I've got some private street sessions, stuff like that. But yeah, other than that, it feels like I'm not doing much at all.
Are you?
That needs to change.
I was going to say it.
That needs to change before Gemma and the kids move out.
I suggest at some stage Gemma's going to be like, right, Mullins, come on, you've had a few months off now. Get on with it. What's next?
Yeah.
She'll be getting you to train as some sort of trade, Kev, a plumber or something like that. Do something useful, Mullins, because she does all that stuff around your house.
She does indeed. Yeah.
Although Sam does here. I came home from 2 weeks away in Scotland on that photography retreat I was running, and it had got suddenly cold here. It was really warm in Scotland. It was cold here, and the heating kicked in last night. I said, "Oh, the heating seems to. I thought that was broken." She said, "Yes, I fixed it." From YouTube. So there we go, Kev. You and I are both going to end up living together as useless. Useless and useless. Yeah.
Useless old men.
Yeah. There we go. That could be our next podcast, Kev. When this one finally runs out of questions, which is coming close to now, that could be our next podcast, Kev. Two useless men. Any advice, says James, to fix a very loose lens hood? My trusty L56 1.2er has been with me for many years, and the hood now feels very loose around the hoose. At the last wedding, I ditched the hood as it felt like it would fall off while I was moving around the church. I'm tempted to just tape it on with black electrical tape. Number one, I would do that. Black electrical tape makes stuff look properly used. I like that look. I don't always use the lens hood, Kev. I'm trying to make my kit look a bit smaller, and when they've got lens hoods, etc., just all, I don't know. So I don't use the lens hood. I mean, obviously on a very, very sunny day I do, but the rest of the time I don't usually bother. Do you?
No, I very rarely use lens hoods. They do have their use for protection, and also for, they're designed at the perfect length to protect from sun flare and stuff. But yeah, I never bother with them. But you can go to the Fujifilm store, the UK online store, and order individual lens hoods. So if you really want your lens hood to work, then go. They're pretty cheap.
Yeah, I don't think they're very expensive, are they? He's got three questions. Not one of them's a bit morbid, I'm afraid, Kev. Second question, what do you do if a wedding guest comes up to you and says that they do not want any photos taken of them at a wedding? Also, a slightly different version of the question, if they don't want their child in any photos. Let's deal with them in photos first. He does have a scenario here. He said, I've had both happen in the last few weeks. Both times I said I'd not include them as the main subject in any photo, but they may be in the background of some others. I also suggested they should speak to the couple as it's their wedding. They were not too happy on both occasions. I've never before been asked this, and I don't think you're about to say you have, or I don't think... I've been asked, actually, but not at a wedding. When I was photographing a funeral, a chap came up to me and said, please, would you not photograph my wife, make sure my wife's not in any pictures? Now, that kind of occasion, you think, yeah, no worries. Fine with me, because I don't know the story behind that. But at a wedding, I don't recall that happening. Has it happened to you, Kev?
It's happened once, and I just said, look, I just said to them something, it was a long time ago, but something along, I was very polite about it. It's something along the lines of, it's impossible for me to, to not, to just isolate one person and never include them. However, none of the images will go any further than the clients. They will see it first. And I suggest that, you ask them to remove any images from the gallery that you don't want other people seeing. So speak to them. They were fine about that. They said, yeah, fair enough. Yeah. That's the only time it's ever happened. So I never had any negativity through it. So I don't know how I would react
now
in that respect.
I do understand the second part to the question because Sam works in safeguarding with schools, in the school she's worked in and continues to work in. So safeguarding and children in photos, I completely understand. And now actually there have been situations where I've been asked not to take pictures of children. So actually that's coming back to me now as a memory. Yes, that has happened. And whilst it's difficult actually during a wedding day because children are running everywhere, I think you can probably manage to shoot a wedding without getting kids, particular kids in pictures, Kev?
I don't know. I think it'd be quite tricky because generally kids congregate together. Yeah. And so, you're basically excluding everybody else or possibly excluding everybody else. So I would probably take the same approach. It's never happened, so I don't know. And I totally understand it, absolutely. But I would offload that responsibility to the clients, and just say, just speak to the clients and make sure that they remove any images from the gallery that you don't want other people to be seen. Yeah. I'd obviously say something like, I'll do my best not to include images, but I can't guarantee it. Just, speak to them, get them to remove them. That's probably the tone I would take.
I think the particular one that I was asked not to include was because a child was going through some situation where their parents were in court. So, I just said, I can keep that out because I'm not sure they'd trust me to be able to do that. To sort of make that offer of, I'll do my best. I don't think I'll do my best would have been good enough for them. So I made a complete yes. They explained the situation to me. Maybe it's different if it's not explained to you. But I
think it would still be hard. But
it's still hard. I have thought of one, Kev, slightly more amusing. Well, I think I've told you this one before, where a wedding guest asked me not to take photos of them during a wedding. Do you remember the one at a particular venue where the guy was saying to me he was a member of the Foreign Legion? Do you remember that one? Or maybe that's...
Yeah, I remember that.
And he just looked really interesting. He looked like a really cool cat. And I was just... You know how you're drawn to photograph some people? You think it's a cracking picture. There's no way I can get a bad photo of you. He was holding court. Everybody was around him. It was impossible not to photograph him in that respect. And I just found him fascinating from all angles. And he'd said to me, I'm a member of the Foreign Legion a couple of times. And I thought, yeah, you've had a few too many red wines. Fine. And just carry on. And then he pinned me against the wall with his hand around my throat. At that point, I thought, you're quite serious. You were a member of the Foreign Legion. I didn't take any more pictures of him after that, and I got escorted to the car park. Well, I got escorted to the car park by the videographer when I'd done the dancing shots, because I was absolutely convinced he was going to kick off, because he spent the whole day, Kev. Every time I turned around and saw him, he was looking at me with evil Foreign Legion eye.
Yeah. Well, the fact is, he wasn't in the Foreign Legion, was he? He was just a because if you're in the Foreign Legion, you don't go around telling people you're in the Foreign Legion.
That's true.
First rule of being in the Foreign Legion.
Don't tell him you're in the Foreign Legion.
That's definitely not the case. He was just a big bully. I would have left. I would have just left. I would have gone to the bride and groom, said, I'm really sorry. Either that over there leaves or I leave. You choose. Would
you really have carried it through to that?
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I know you and I have different hobbies, so I probably wouldn't have put up with him pinning me to the wall either. There might have been a little bit of something happening before that.
You wouldn't have gone into a fight with him, would you, Kev?
I would have defended myself, absolutely. And I would have absolutely 100% gone up to the bride and groom and said, either he leaves or I leave.
Yeah.
Definitely. And of course, it's never happened to me, so I'm only saying I'm using my bravado here. But I don't know how you were in that situation, but I would not have put up with that. I'm sure of that.
I was greatly shaken. I can't remember whether that particular day you were doing a wedding. I do miss those days, Kev. I do miss being able to send you messages and saying, Kev, I've stolen 8 canapes. Croquembouches. That's it. Yeah, they won't notice I've taken them out the other side of the cake. Oh, I do miss those days, Kev. But I think you were at a wedding. I think I might.
You can still send me the messages.
Well, yeah, but you might. Yeah, I don't want to bug you, because you'll be too busy watching, I don't know, carnivals, making £2,000 every time a float goes past. Anyway, it shook me a bit. I didn't fight back on that. Okay, I just thought, I think maybe I was so shocked to be honest, Kev.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it would have been shocking.
Yeah, I know friends of mine.
He's a big bully.
Yeah, he was a big bully. Anyway, moving on. If all those words that you called him, if he's listening for any reason at all, I'll give him Paul Waring's address, and he can go and find him. I'll say that's where.
Give him Paul's address.
That's where Kev lives.
Find him.
Yeah. Right.
I guarantee he's not in the Foreign Legion. He probably works in a pizza shop or something.
Pizza shop. Right. It's a bit random, Kev. Number 3. Now, this one is a bit morbid. Okay. Clear the air, morbid.
Well, I thought the previous one was the morbid one.
No. Well, I suppose it could be, couldn't it? No, this is the morbid one. A customer asked me, he has some very particular clients, doesn't he, James Sauls? A customer asked me during the inquiry process, what happens to their photos if I die before I've edited them? I wasn't sure what to say. Do you have a plan for this? It did make me think, as my wife wouldn't have a clue what to do with the unedited weddings or where to find them. I mean, they're good points, Kev. I'm not sure that Sam or Gemma... I mean, I would have thought that Gemma would have phoned me and said, could you come and help me to find some stuff from the dear departed Kev's catalogues? And I'd have said, well, I'll have a go, and vice versa. But I've been asked what happens if you're really ill. And the answer is always, well, look, I mean, I know a lot of wedding photographers, and whilst I can't contract it, and I did once turn down a wedding because they insisted I was contracting this, and I said, can't contract it, but I will, with all best endeavours, try to find a replacement photographer. That seems fair, but I've never been asked that, Kev. What would you have said?
I think I would have said something like, well, the last time that happened to me... I don't know. I mean, it's a ridiculous thing. I think I probably would have said something to reminiscent of what you just mentioned. I would have said, well, hopefully that would never happen, but, should it happen, my wife knows enough photographers, Neil, etc., to kind of figure it, come to my cameras, take the stuff and all of that. But yeah, that's a very, very... I've never ever heard that.
Well, Kev, if it happens, can I just? There's a little pot here. It's on top of my mini disc machine. God, I hope this isn't tempting Providence, Kev. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but that's.
Is it near the stack of magazines you told me to come and get in that space as well?
And that funny object that I sent you a photograph of the other week at a wedding. I thought. I was asked to take some detail pictures, and that was left on the table. I thought, what the hell is that?
Yeah, it was confusing, wasn't it?
What was
it? Gemma knew, though.
What was it? Can you remember? I can't remember what it was now.
It was a fluff remover.
It did not look like a fluff remover.
Yeah, it was. She said, she told me about it.
Oh, dear. Oh, that's what she's told you, Kev. Moving on. Facebook. What have you got then, Kev? So there were 3 questions. James called them random questions. James, they were brilliant. That's exactly the kind of questions we want. They were fantastic.
Yeah. They were questions. They were good questions.
They were very good. I like them.
So Brad, from 1 week ago, in the wrong post.
Right.
So this is from the post from about 8 years ago, but he posted it 1 week ago. Says, hi, Kev and Neale. I recently found out about natural live view, which I've always had set to off. I shoot 100% before and in across, most recently with a slight tone curve of +2 shadows and 0 highlights to help me see less flat image in the viewfinder. That said, I often overprotect my highlights due to the JPEG histogram. Curious how you had your camera set up when you were shooting RAW in wedding situations. Did you have tone curve on or use natural live view? Let's explain what natural live view is first, really. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So in Fujifilm cameras, you've got a natural live view, and that hides all the in-camera processing when viewing it in the LCD or the EVF. So basically, if you're shooting in, I don't know, Velvia film simulation with +2 shadows and clarity and all that kind of stuff, it hides all of that stuff. Yeah. So it's a natural view rather than a processed view.
It looks a bit like the standard JPEG setting you would use, doesn't it?
Yeah, that kind of thing. And then, so the question is, when you're shooting RAW, do you use the tone curve or natural live view? So I don't use natural live view. I do use the tone curve. I do pump up the shadows and decrease the highlights. and I shoot in black and white. I see him. I set everything in black and white. And of course, Brad's right that the raw files don't inherit any of that stuff. But I find to give myself that I can see the shadows and the highlights much clearer with high contrast black and whites in the viewfinders. So that's how I do it. Everything always is in black and white in my viewfinder with a little bit of an S curve in the shadows and highlights. And then I edit from raw.
If you were, you don't shoot landscape really, do you? But if you were shooting landscape, would you still use the black and white methodology that you've adopted in that respect?
I probably would.
Would you?
Yeah, because I'd be really interested. Well, I'm assuming landscape in terms of skies and mountains or seas and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I probably would, because I can still see and expose using the spot metering probably for subtle twists of light in either the clouds or the reflections in the sea. Yeah, I probably would. The only time I don't really use it is when I'm in the studio, if I'm doing anything in the studio, and certainly when I'm filming, obviously. But yeah, I probably would. I will do it when I go to Wales in a couple of weeks and I sit on the mountainside.
I'm not sure when you go to Wales. I know this isn't the one with your buddies. You're doing a buddy trip, aren't you? And then you're doing a little tour.
Going on judo tour to Dublin.
That, Kev, are you going to come back in one piece?
We're not taking out judo suits.
Oh.
Don't tell Gemma, though.
She does listen to this occasionally. You do know that, don't you?
It's people I do judo with going together to Dublin.
What, just a few little glasses of orange juice, maybe pop down the local art gallery, have a little look around, that sort of thing? That sort of trip?
Exactly it.
Yeah,
that's exactly it. We're going to rent a little set of pedal bikes and go and visit all of the history of Dublin.
Nice. Don't go near the Guinness or anything like that, obviously, will you? It's not that kind of trip.
I can't imagine it. No, I can't imagine it.
No.
I would think we're all clean living.
Yeah, obviously. God, stand by, Gemma. He's coming home with gout. He won't be climbing any mountains in Wales over the following weeks. Yeah. God, dear, life's just one long holiday for you now, Mullins, isn't it? No wonder you don't want to go back to work, eh?
It's complicated at the minute. I've got lots of things going on. You're quite right.
Yeah.
Good things, but taking up time.
I'm intrigued by this photo walk you did. What was that? Is this something new you're going to start doing?
Which one?
Well,
the Thames Festival.
The Thames Festival, photo walk you went on.
No, that was the Thames Bank Arts Festival or something.
Yeah.
Thames Bank Arts, I don't know, whatever. They run a festival about the River Thames, and they asked me to do the photo walk for it.
Nice.
So that's what I did. We went from Albert Bridge to Chelsea Bridge. We got exclusive access to the Cadogan Pier, which was quite nice. And it was nice, actually. I really enjoyed it. 10 people, 2 hours, wandering up the River Thames.
Having a chat.
Very nice indeed.
Yeah, very nice.
Having a chat.
Right.
Showing them how to take pictures.
Email. I'm not sure. I have a lot more email stuff, actually. So you might need to... maybe this one. Andreas Noah. Yes, I've got one. Andreas Noah. Question. I've eventually got my new X100 V1 VI6 is what you mean. 7 months after ordering and after my holidays for which I'd originally ordered it. I ordered it for a holiday that it didn't arrive for. Oh, I'm sorry. But you've got it now, Andres. I want to set it up properly, including JPEG settings, maintaining XRAW Studio. Am I right that the picture quality can only be set to fine there, not to fine and raw? Meaning, I would always overwrite my fine and raw setting that I want to have in my camera. Is there any advice on how to manage this? Maybe even overcome it? Thanks a lot for picking this up on the show. Thanks a lot for my favourite podcast. And final question. I'll ask the final question in a second. Let's deal with this one first.
So it is because XRAW Studio will only process the JPEGs, will process as JPEGs, I should say, and hence fine only, not fine plus raw. So yes,
right.
It's quite right, and no, there's no way of changing that.
Meaning that he would always overwrite his fine and raw setting that he wants to have in the camera. Is that right? Yes. So what does he need to do then? What does he need to do?
Yeah. So what? I think what he's saying is, okay, let's break this down. So he's using XRAW Studio to create his own JPEG recipes. That's great. You can also use XRAW Studio to save those recipes direct to your camera. Part of the thing it will save is your quality, i.e. fine or medium, etc., etc. And I think what he's saying is that, I want to shoot RAW as well. So yeah, that's an extra step. You would need to go into your recipe in the camera and change it to Fine Plus RAW after you transferred it from X-Raw Studio.
Now the penny has dropped, Kev.
I'm fairly sure that's the question, and I'm fairly sure that's the right answer.
Okay. And then the final question, what about a new FujiCast event in London in spring of 2025, please? I don't know. It depends how Kev is after the judo meeting, 7, 8, 9 months previous in Dublin. I mean, it could be a long recovery, Andreas.
Yeah, well, I think we should think about it. I was thinking about that today, actually. And funny enough, before we went on there, thinking about another event. All depends on whether Andreas is feeling very kind to us and allows us to use the House of Photography again. But yeah, maybe we'll start that discussion off slowly.
Well, I don't see why he wouldn't. I mean, we were all there, Kev. It's not like we smashed the joint up. It wasn't like rock and roll or anything like that. But it would be nice to do another one. I do like being in the House of Photography. It's a great place to do it. You're right, Andreas. And spring would be good, though, wouldn't it, Kev? Because the weather's nice and people feel like venturing out again. Unless you want to do one earlier than that, Kev. Do you want to do one for the winter doldrums? No?
Let's do one tomorrow.
Right.
Everybody meet up tomorrow at the House of Photography and ask for Neale.
No, ask for say, have you seen the French guy that's in the Foreign Legion? Right. Go on, do a Facebook question.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We should start slowly progressing that idea.
Okay, right. We'll put that one into the meeting. Go on then, Kev. One from Facebook. I don't think we've got a lot longer, so see where we go with this.
Well, I've got another one from JB, actually, in the wrong thread again, but it's enormous. So I'm sorry, JB. I'm not doing it. You had enough airtime, frankly.
No, he didn't. No, JB was on the... Jeremy was on the Patreon pop-up, so you can afford him some airtime here, Kev.
No, I don't care. It's too big.
Okay,
right. We'll go back to him. We'll get back to you, Jeremy. I promise. Some point. Now I'm fighting with Facebook again.
2026.
I'm going to start using something else.
Well, we've got 3,000 plus people in there, Kev. I'm not sure that's a great idea.
Yeah. There's going to be 3,000 minus 1 in a minute because I'm getting extremely angry at it. My general dislike of Facebook.
I tell you, number one, get rid of the old thread, Kev. Just get rid of it. Delete that one. So there's only one floating around. That's my first bit of advice. And secondly, maybe go to it each day and just, print it off on paper what you want to, or maybe that's not a very good environmentally friendly paper.
No, but I could copy them, you're right, but I quite like putting my little emoji in them to show that I've replied and the mood I've replied them in. That's my little thing.
Well, you can still do it, Kev, but just copy paste to a document.
Right.
Then,
I finally got to the bottom.
Good.
And in time-honoured tradition, after my stupid rant, I will go with the latest question, most recent one, I should say,
right,
which was 2 days ago from Daniel Kiss.
Okay.
And Daniel, I always love that name, Daniel.
I know. I always think that whenever we hear from Daniel.
Kiss.
Yeah, I know.
Question for the show about editing. When I photograph with my X-T5, my RAW files are somehow dirty, even in bright, sunny conditions.
Right.
When I see Kevin's wedding photos, however, they are super clean and crisp. Do you have any tips how I can replicate those deep, rich, clean colours without oversaturating them? Note he hasn't been looking at your wedding pictures.
No, I know. No, then I think mine.
But yours, actually, I always think your colour images, I think, are even cleaner than mine, I think. But I don't think this is a presets question. I think this is just general. I think what he's saying is that the RAW files, when he looks at the RAW files, they don't seem quite as effervescent.
They may seem a bit muddy or something. Is that what he's thinking? A bit muddy?
Yeah, that's the other word he used, actually, muddy and dirty. I don't know. I mean, without seeing an image, it's hard to kind of pass any judgment on this. It could be down to the exposure itself, of course. If it's a black light and higher ISO, it will appear to be like that, or it could simply be the import process that you're using if you are applying any kind of presets or whatever. When you import, you mustn't import with I don't import with any, unless you're about to say you do, Kev. I don't import with any presets. I want to import it as
as clean as it was when it came out the camera, and after that I'll deal with any sort of ruggedness to the image or sort of dirty skin tones or whatever. Or
I do have an import preset that I use, but all that does is is bang up a little bit of clarity, add a little bit of contrast to basically every image, just to lift it off being a base raw file.
Yeah.
That's all, because that's what I apply to every image anyway. So that just happens. But yeah, for all intents and purposes.
Why don't you add it? Why do you have to import it like that? Why don't you add it as you do each image?
No. So when I import it in the import dialog, you can tell it to run a preset.
I know. Yeah. Oh,
yeah, because that's just something I do to every image. So I just get it to do that automatically.
Yeah.
It's just a bit of time, but it doesn't do much. Without seeing Daniel's image, it's hard to explain that. But I suppose. If he's using my images as a comparison, so if I step through very briefly how I edit my images, then my color images at least, then that might help him. So that's what happens. Import preset just adds a tiny bit of clarity, it lifts a bit of contrast. I then correct all of the exposures, brightness, exposure up, down, whatever. I straighten them. Then I whack on one of my presets, but obviously whatever preset you're using, and then I eyeball each image and just double check everything's fine, because not every image is going to work perfectly with every preset. It might need some readjusting afterwards, and that's it. But Kevin's photos are super clean and crisp. Have a good play with the contrast, clarity, and the tone curve in Lightroom, because amazing. Those three tools can really lift an image off the page, and I reckon that's probably the brunt of the answer.
There we go. Well, that is it, Kev. Next time we talk to you, you'll have started your recovery from Dublin. I'll come and visit you in whatever centre you find yourself in. You be careful out there, Kev. You be careful. Sound like Gemma.
You might end up being my one phone call.
I'll just say, Kev who? No, don't know him. All right, but and then Wales. Oh God, Kev, are you going to be in a fit state to be climbing mountains? I'm seriously worried about you, Mr. Mullins. Anyway, that's it for this week.
2 weeks.
Two weeks. I know. Send your questions in. So it's very important now, Kev. Try and explain how we can put these at the top of the Facebook group so that you are not driven mad every single time.
There is one of the comments, one of the questions that I couldn't find because of stupid Facebook was something along the lines of, why is the thread not pinned to the top, as Kev says every week? And I checked, and it is. So right at the top of the FujiCast Facebook group is a thread that says new for 2024. Please post all questions for the show here. And I wrote here in uppercase capitals.
Right.
So that is where to post your questions.
Right, good.
Not in any circumstance post in the old ones. In fact, I'm going to delete it.
Yeah,
I'm going to do that now.
Please do.
Right.
Please do. And if you'd like to
otherwise I'm going to have a coronary.
Well, no, don't do that. Otherwise, send your questions in, as James did, with his wonderful questions to click at fujicast.co.uk. And see you next time, Kev. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.